get them. That clock's wrong.
Unitarian Universalist Church, building community, inspiring growth, creating change. Here in the heart of Kansas City, we come together to create this hour of shared reflection so that we might be renewed in courage for these times and inspired to lives of greater dignity, higher purpose, deeper generosity, and more effective action. If you are new to Unitarian Universalism or to our congregation, we want to get to know you and share a part of your journey. If this place is already your spiritual home, welcome once more. We need one another, and it is good to be together again. Through the gifts of technology, we also gather virtually to celebrate community and connections as we lean into the values of justice, compassion, and reason. Welcome to all those who are joining us in this way today. Together, we learn the love that has the power to overcome both loneliness in the heart and oppression in the world. Welcome to our service this morning. May the words and music and images that we offer today nourish our best selves, calling forth abundant wisdom and love.
Arise, O souls, oh, arise.
Hi, I'm Richard Thompson, and I'm a member of All Souls. It is my pleasure and honor to say hello to you all on this beautiful Sunday morning. Echoing the message in the video, we welcome those that are here in person and those online who have chosen to set aside this time together. Additionally, our welcome extends to those who have long been a part of All Souls and those who are visiting us for the first time. In the spirit of inclusion, after the service, please seek out the new faces among us and introduce yourself. Introduce them to others. It may be the beginning of long and warm relationship. Keep in mind that next Sunday, November 6th, is the longest day of the year. I'm sure we're all looking forward to that. Daylight savings time ends, the clock is turned back an hour, and we have a 25-hour day. If you don't set your clock back and arrive at church an hour early, that's not a problem. You'll just have more time to visit with other people. A major heads up, after the service today, please join us in Conover Auditorium to welcome Reverend Erin Dajka Holley and her husband, Neil Holley. There will be pizza and all the fixins as we greet our new minister. Today, we welcome to the pulpit Reverend Micheal Brown. Also, we got a close-up look today at how the small world syndrome and how lives intertwine. Reverend Brown is a graduate of Meadville-Lombard Theological School and served as an interim manager at DuPage Unitarian Church under the leadership of our very own Reverend Kendyl Gibbons. He was a minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Peoria for 27 years. During Reverend Brown's tenure, Reverend Erin Dajka Holley completed her internship. It's another connection. He most recently served as a minister in residence at the First Unitarian Church of San Diego, California. Currently, he lives with his partner Diane in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Today, Reverend Brown shares with us an optimistic view of seeking inclusive love against a backdrop of so much division in our world. Welcome, Reverend Brown.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here. I'm delighted to share this special day with you. The opening words this morning come to us from Starhawk. We are all longing to go home to some place. we have never been, a place half remembered and half envisioned we can only catch glimpses of from time to time. Community. Somewhere there are people to whom we can speak with passion without having the words catch in our throats. Somewhere a circle of hands will open to receive us. Eyes will light up as we enter. Voices will celebrate with us whenever we come in to our own power. Community means strength that joins our strength to do the work that needs to be done. Arms to hold us when we falter. A circle of healing, a circle of friends, someplace where we can be free.
Good morning. My name is Isaac Robinson, and I light this chalice for justice, equity, and compassion in human relations.
Please stand as you are able and join in the affirmation of our great covenant. Then remain standing and join us in song number 18, What a Wondrous Love. Together we affirm, goodwill is the spirit of this church and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Please be seated.
Erin, we have asked you to walk with us on a journey of change, and discovery into our future as a community, a future we are beginning to envision. We know that we want that future to include a new generation, especially the children of this congregation. We hope that you will help us all to better understand what they most need from this community and how we can best offer our support, guidance, and encouragement as they and we encounter the challenges of life together. We ask you also to work in partnership with Kendyl as she moves through the process of healing and the concluding years of her long ministry, so that she and we may all have confidence in the sustainable leadership of our community.
I, too, am invested in passing on the heritage of our faith to a new generation, just as it was passed on to me. Of course, this is not a solo project. It takes, as they say, a village. We will all need to model the goodwill of loving hearts and open minds that we covenant to hold at the center of our community, as well as a commitment to creating change toward greater justice, compassion, and responsibility in our shared world. The resources I have to work with will be determined by our collective generosity. The leadership that Kendyl and I can offer together will be as fruitful as your energy for the work of this church. It is work that we are both glad and eager to do. I am grateful for this opportunity, and I look forward to this and other relationships that will unfold over the years to come.
I also look forward to our partnership in ministry with this congregation. I have experienced it as a warm and generous community with much to offer its members, its leaders, our city, and the world. Together, you and I will help it to thrive and live into the promise of a bright future. Thank you for choosing to be part of that future, for choosing us as we have chosen you. Dearly beloved, Erin and I today pledge you the best of our minds and hearts to the good we all seek to serve. Will you also covenant to bring her into the life and work of our community with support and hopefulness, so that this institution shall be a legacy of goodwill to the world? If so, please respond, we will.
We will.
Let us now greet our young people with song as they depart for their religious education gatherings with some exciting projects that we'll see later.
Of your nights and days, truth on your lips and kindness in your deeds, faith to follow where the human spirit leads.
My soul rejoices in the promises of this day. The humanist poet Ken Patton, one of the prophets of our faith, says that the reason for homes and families and assemblies in the houses of fellowship is that we need one another and it is good to be together. As we remind our new members when we celebrate their joining the church, membership here depends not on inherited creeds or dogma, but upon the freely given assent of mind and heart in shared purpose and mutual help. It is in choosing to build relationships here that we practice and learn the love that redeems us from loneliness and from human injustice. And it is in choosing one another that we are chosen and woven into the fabric of beloved community. So we come now to the moment when we affirm our choice of this place and these people through the practice of generosity, by sharing what we can to sustain the beauty and integrity of our space, the support of our staff, the education of our children, and our outreach to those who may resonate to our message of freedom, reason, and compassion. The project of building for the future upon which we are embarking with Erin would not be possible without the generous support of many members who hope today's congregation will leave an enduring legacy. I invite you to join them now as the offering for this morning is gladly given and gratefully received.
That was beautiful, wasn't it? Please join me in the dedication of our offering. We dedicate our offerings and our actions to the mission at the heart of this congregation, to build a respectful, caring community, to inspire personal and spiritual growth, and to create change toward a just and compassionate society. Thank you.
Words from Emergent Strategy by Adrienne Maree Brown. When we are engaged in acts of love, we humans are at our best and most resilient. the love in romance that makes us want to be better people, the love of children that makes us change our whole lives to meet their needs, the love of family that makes us drop everything to take care of them, the love of community that makes us work tirelessly with broken hearts. Perhaps humans' core function is love. Love leads us to observe in a much deeper way than any other emotion. If love were the central practice of a new generation of organizers and spiritual leaders, it would have a massive impact. If the goal was to increase the love rather than winning or dominating a constant opponent, I think we could actually imagine liberation from constant oppression. We would suddenly be seeing everything we do, everyone we meet, not through the tactical eyes of war, but through the eyes of love.
Sing the song of your heart, a song of hope. Your voice is enough to hold the notes of wonder. Sing the song of your heart in doubt or elation, so others may join. Together you fill creation. Speak the word of your truth, a holy word. Your truth is enough to tell the depths of suffering. Speak the word of your truth, lest truth die unspoken. Then others will help. Together you heal the broken. Build the world of your dreams, a world of joy. Your hands are enough to lay a stone of justice. Build the world of your dreams in spite of all sorrow, and others will share. Together you shape tomorrow.
I want to say once again what a pleasure it is to be with you this morning. You've already heard that both Reverend Erin and I served at different times as interns under Reverend Kendyl, and Reverend Erin was also an intern in our church in Peoria, so we are connected in many ways. And I'm going to tell you one more little thing, and that is that Reverend Erin and I are both wearing stoles this morning that were handmade by Reverend Kendyl and given to us at the conclusion of our internships. When I was in 3rd grade, I lived in Blue Springs, Missouri. Not far from here. I don't think I could find it, but I know it's not far. In my school yearbook for 3rd grade, I am wearing a Kansas City Athletics baseball team t-shirt. Wow, how's that? Woo. Because of circumstances in my family that were triggered by my father's death in a car accident when I was 4, at that time in 3rd grade, my brother and I were living with our aunt and uncle in Blue Springs. And to make it even more interesting and life-changing, the uncle that we were living with was a Southern Baptist minister and a good person, but with a definite point of view about life. Let's just say it that way. He pastored a church somewhere around here, and again, I don't know that I could find it, but it was a country church, and we used to drive back and forth on a gravel road to get to and from church. And so when we drove home after church, I would often engage him, and he would engage me in a conversation about the sermon. So we would discuss, the topic and the Bible reading and what it meant. And that was part of my formation. I think it was one of the, early times I started thinking about these things. One day, I asked my uncle if the Buddhists are going to hell. That was my question. I thought that was a pretty good question, actually. He tried valiantly. He gave it everything he had to try to explain how this would work from his theological viewpoint. But to tell you the truth, I was not satisfied with his answer. And I'm still not satisfied, actually, to tell you the truth. But I do remember the sound of the gravel and discussing these very deep and profound questions with him. By the time I arrived at my first Unitarian church, was Second Unitarian Church of Chicago, about 20 years later than this conversation with my uncle, I had pretty much forgotten about whether I was worried about the Buddhists going to hell. It wasn't a concern of mine anymore. But I just fell in love with the delicious freedom of Unitarianism. That was just so nourishing to me, and I just loved it. And I was so delighted that I was free to express my actual thoughts and my actual feelings without any concern that I might get in trouble. More likely, I would get into a very intriguing conversation with someone if I did that. And what a pleasure that was for me. And I was hooked on Unitarianism. And actually, I still am. Now, during those years at Second Unitarian, I really don't remember anybody talking about hell at all, really, except how good it was that we didn't believe in it. But there was no more detail, and people didn't seem that interested in hell anyway. So I really didn't think about it that much. But when I went to seminary and started studying Universalism for the first time and learning more about that, I began to get intrigued with Universalism. And at a certain point, I realized that Universalism offers a very clear answer to my question. A very clear answer. No, the Buddhists are not going to hell, at least not the Christian one. And neither were the Hindus, or the Jews, or the Muslims, or the pagans, or the eco-feminists, or atheists, or agnostics, or LGBTQ folks, not even socialists. The Democrats are not going to hell. Take a deep breath. Nor are the Republicans. In fact, according to the Universalists, nobody is going to hell. Nobody. Instead, everyone will end up in the everlasting love of God. At least that's one of those expressions that's used in Universalism, the everlasting love of God. The Universalists had a bunch of arguments to demonstrate that no one could possibly go to hell, but the main argument of Universalism, the big one, is that if God is a loving God, how could a loving God parent put his own children in a place of eternal torture and then throw away the key and just abandon them forever? So I don't think we could imagine doing that. So the Universalists argued that that's just an impossible contradiction. It couldn't possibly happen. So, and they have some other arguments too, and we could spend all morning that, but I think the loving God argument is powerful. It's a very powerful argument. Now, many Unitarian Universalists don't believe in God. So that kind of throws a snag in the Universalist argument, which I think is a beautiful argument, but some people just don't believe in God. And so I think it may not always be obvious that our Universalist tradition can be part of our spiritual life. Or how would that work for us if we didn't have this faith in a loving God, and we may not think there's a heaven? So where does that leave Universalism in our tradition? And I'm got kind of fascinated with that and have put some thought into it, especially the last few years. But I do want to acknowledge that it is kind of a problem about the God character in the story. What do we do? And I will say that it's a him, I think, because in the story, it's a him. So I'm going to put that problem on the shelf for a moment. We're going to save that problem. I promise you that I'll try to say something about it. But I want to look at this issue from a slightly different angle. All of us in this room, I think, know that we are living right now in a very divided culture. It would be hard not to know that, I think. And we're at a really very crucial decision point right now, one of a number of crucial decision points. Which way are we going to go as a culture on this, with this great divide between us that seems to be almost insurmountable? And we're going to be actually making an important decision about our future in, I believe, 9 days. So it's a big, important time. And there is considerable anxiety in the air as we approach this. And I actually feel that anxiety myself about, where are we going? What's going to happen? So I want for a moment to invite you to think about two different kinds of language that are being used in our culture these days. So let me give you a few examples of one kind of language that's being used by people, okay? Here are some of the words that you hear from some folks. All people, everyone, universal, unity, every citizen, come together, no matter who you are. And in Dr. King's famous phrase, all God's children. So that's a kind of language that is used by some folks. We also hear other kinds of language. Here's some other language samples that we hear in the world. Voter fraud, losers, stealing what is ours, take our country back, hordes of immigrants, tough on criminals. And another fascinating one is Christian nation. So these words, as far as I can determine, come from people who feel that somehow life is being stolen from them. And then they want it back. And another word that's being used lately, which concerns me greatly, is the word war. Not referring to something in another country, for referring to us, that we're in a kind of war. So this may sound like a little bit of a too harsh criticism, and I don't know that everybody necessarily lines up in exactly one side or the other. We're complicated folks. These are political words, of course. But in the first group, I want to ask you if you can hear the echo of the old Universalists, who argued that everyone would eventually experience the love of God. Or we could say that in a more secular way and say that everyone should share in the benefits of our national bounty. Everyone should get the good of life. And you can also hear, I think, an echo of those who claimed that the bounty of life, whether in some other dimension someday or right here on this earth, was only for some people and not for everyone. That's another view, and as a matter of fact, that's, in a way, what I learned as being the worldview of my Baptist relatives, who are wonderful people, but they think some of us are going to go to the good place, and it's just going to be perfect forever and ever, and some are going to go to a horrible place. And I'm just asking if you can hear that division echoed in some of the language of our time. Some people argue that everyone should have the good things, the bounty of life, and some people say it's only for part of the people, not for everyone. Some theologians, one I've gotten into recently named George Bentley Hart, calls these people partialists. Partialists. It's kind of a fitting descriptive name. Now, I want to suggest also that we could extend an investigation into the relationship between certain theological ideas and certain social ideas, and I think that would work pretty well. Just for example, I think that if you believe in hell, which the Universalists didn't, but if you believe in hell, I think you might be more willing to use torture in your political policy. Because torture is something that God uses, so it must be okay for us to use too. Wouldn't that make a kind of sense? I suspect that we could see a kind of resonance between the hell idea and mass incarceration, because hell is a kind of mass incarceration. So I think that's another way we could look at that. But should everyone have health care? Well, somebody is saying yes emphatically. But, you know, if not everyone is going to be blessed in the end, not everyone's going to make it in the world to come, why should we worry about whether they're going to make it here? It's not part of our vision. When people have a religious vision, they tend to act in ways that, even if they're not aware of it, resonate with that vision. So if we believe that the human race is going to be divided at the end, some people are going to get all the good stuff and some people are going to get nothing but pain, I think, and I offer for your consideration, that one would tend to implement policies that resonate with that. And I also am suggesting that the old Universalist story is a very profound story, even if we don't necessarily resonate with the theological specifics of God and heaven and hell and all that. They taught inclusive love. That's what was underneath the theology and the story and the myth, was that everyone should be included in the circle of love. And so that's the way we should structure our life. It's a powerful, powerful message. So these religious themes still echo in the social chaos that we're experiencing right now. And fascinatingly enough, if you look at which groups vote for which candidates, I vow not to mention any candidate whatsoever today. But if you look at who votes for which candidates, people on the religious right, who are theologically mostly people who do believe the old story of eternal punishment, have a tendency to vote in ways that reflect that. There's data out there. You can look at that if you find it interesting, as I do. So I would argue, I think I am arguing perhaps, that people who have an exclusionist religious model in their mind tend to express that in an exclusionist model of society, where not everybody gets the good stuff, but some people do, if they're on the right team. And people with a more inclusive view of religion will tend to want to build that in the world. So, I want to suggest then that our national divide is essentially a debate between an inclusive vision of society and an exclusive vision of society. Now, I know that's overgeneralizing. When I was in seminary, one of my professors said that all sermons are overgeneralizations. So if that's the case, then I'm not going to worry if I'm overgeneralizing or not. There's a lot of nuance we can discuss, and maybe we'll get a chance to do that. So the question is the goodness of life for everyone? Or is it just for some? And that somehow, I mean, how could we even take that view? But we might think that somehow God or some other religious entity wills it to be that way. Because in the old story of the division of humanity at the end of time, that's what happens. So we might think, well, that's what God has in mind. So we can do it that way too. I offer that for your consideration. Our Universalist heritage takes a strong stand on this question. It just says, ultimately, everyone is included. Everyone is included. We're not there at the moment, and no one is excluded. Now, I don't know about you, but I have a couple people I wouldn't mind excluding. I'm just going to tell you the truth about that. I could make exclamations during the evening news sometimes. Can we really envision having this love, inclusive love for everyone? Bell Hooks has a good definition of love. Love is the will to nurture one's own and another's spiritual growth. So we will our own spiritual growth and the spiritual growth. Could we will that for everyone, even people we don't like? I can think of a few people who I think are in desperate need of some spiritual growth. And so I can, in real wholehearted fashion, I can say that I will those people spiritual growth, we could call it personal growth. I want those people to grow in love. And I can will that and intend that, and I can include, I think, pretty much everyone in my vision. I don't know. The flesh is weak sometimes. So the Universalist heritage really takes a strong and beautiful stand on that question. The difficulty for many of us is embracing the old Universalist character of God, who seems to be the engineer of all this stuff, and maybe is someone that we don't necessarily think is actually really there. I know some of us do and some of us don't, and some of us have some beautiful other ideas about deity that work. So I want to ask you a question now. If you have ever seen Shakespeare's classic Hamlet, if you haven't seen it, go see it sometime or watch a film. But if you've ever seen that, you know that there's a certain ghost that plays an important role in that film. Now, maybe you don't believe in ghosts, although there are ghosts I have discovered all over Kansas City this weekend. There are ghosts everywhere, so I don't know how you could not believe in them. But can you imagine someone going to see this famous Shakespearean play Hamlet, where there's an important ghost, and then leaving afterwards and walking out and saying, that was a stupid play. Everyone knows there's no such thing as a ghost. Would that be a likely reaction to seeing one of the most profound works of theater in English? I doubt that we would respond that way. I think when we see, and by the way, we see supernatural beings in all kinds of plays and movies and in our music. It's all over our culture, our various kinds of supernatural beings. Video games, everywhere. I think that most of us realize that we don't need to have the literal existence of a ghost to believe that Hamlet's struggle is a deep spiritual adventure. We don't need to believe in ghosts literally, but the ghost in a way symbolizes this question that he's struggling with. But perhaps we need a compelling figure to symbolize the question that he's presented with. And so that ghost really makes it concrete and alive for us. So, ancient and even contemporary stories often include such characters who may not literally exist, but they help us understand the precious truths about those stories. Happens all the time. So perhaps we could do something similar with the old story of universal salvation. And even if we feel that the God character may not exist and heaven may not exist either, we can still feel the difference between life-giving, inclusive love and a harsh, punitive treatment of people without any justice or compassion. We can feel the difference between those two things. We know them when we see them. And perhaps then the God character might be reinterpreted kind of like the ghost. Maybe he's not literal. Maybe I'm using he because he's a he in this story. Maybe that God is not literal, but maybe that idea is powerful because it symbolizes this inclusive love. So I offer that to you this morning as a possibility. One of my favorite writers, Sandra Cisneros, some of you may be acquainted with her writing. She's a Mexican-American novelist and poet, has written a poem called Credo. She wrote it in Spanish. I'm going to give you my rough translation of just a little part of the poem. So she says, I believe that God is love and love is God. Creo que Dios es amor y el amor es Dios. even though some may doubt the existence of God, no one doubts the existence of love. So I like this poem a lot, but she actually might be mistaken. Maybe there are some people who do doubt the existence of love. Maybe there are times in our lives when we doubt the existence of love. But we and they can experience that reality of love regardless of religious belief or not belief. When I came into your church this morning, I felt welcomed. And I felt like I was in a loving community. So I think we know when we see that or feel it or are around it. I think we do know that, and we know that that's real. So words are always a problem. Lao Tzu wrote that the Tao that can be named is not the true Tao. The words will never be perfect, however we say it. But still, we strive to approach the realities that the words point to. Some of you may know that our denomination, the Unitarian Universalist Association, is currently looking at part of our bylaws. I know you all come to church to hear about bylaws. That's the most exciting thing we ever talk about. But we're in the process of revising a place in the bylaws that talks about our purposes. And you're going to see that draft in a while, and you're going to get to discuss it and ponder it and amend it and discuss it some more and ponder it some more and amend it again. And hopefully, in about a year and a half, we might make a good decision about that. But I want to read you one line from the new draft. Love is the enduring force that holds us together. Love is the enduring force that holds us together. So whether this line will be in the final version exactly in this particular way or not, I do not know. But I do believe that inclusive love is central to who we are and what we are trying to do and bring about in the world. And it is also true that a strong force of exclusion is struggling in what seems to me like kind of the opposite direction. And our religious heritage speaks to this divide, I think. It speaks to us of a force that can ultimately unite people. Maybe not very soon, maybe not today, but it can. Therefore, let us bet on love. Let us believe that love is up to the challenge and it will grow stronger in our lives if we believe that. Live like there is a chance and there will be a better chance. Let us make new stories about the transforming power of love using our contemporary theological language. But let us not throw away the best of the ancient stories, for they also speak the truth in the language of their time. I encourage you to bet on this community. Bet on the new ministry that we celebrate today. Bet on our human future, even when the odds may not be greatly in our favor. As we dedicate our lives to love and action, our lives will be enhanced and the odds will improve. Bet on the spirit of this day, and our hopes and dreams will come a bit closer. Bet on love, inclusive, healing love. So may it be.
Will you rise and sing with us, please?
soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
After the closing words, I invite you to be seated again because I have the impression something is going to happen. May the spirit of inclusive love be in our hearts and minds as we go forth into the world today. May the spirit of this community strengthen us and give us hope today. May the celebration of new ministry engage our spirits and open our vision. And may we feel a new sense of courage as we strive to serve our world with love, justice, and care for our earth. May the blessings of life and love be upon us. Please be seated.
Oh, muffin crumbs. The strawberry patch is all picked out, y'all. Oh, but there's good news. That means it's time for the pumpkin patch. The patio outside has had a bumper crop of pumpkins this year. Our farmers are very talented, and they have been bringing the pumpkins up to the patch all day. So if you've been wondering how in the berry bitty world you're going to decorate your front porch tomorrow, you should come to the pumpkin patch. If you do, the coming of age youth will be cheerful as cherries to accept your donations for the farmer's hard work. I must warn you though, there are 2 fields in our pumpkin patch. The first patch is labeled claimed pumpkins. And the pumpkins in this field are designated to go home with their farmers because they are so very proud of their blue ribbon-worthy gourds. Now the other field is labeled available, and these pumpkins are available to anyone. But it is first come, first served, so don't dilly-dally. Enough of this juicy gibberish. You are now going to get a preview of these positively posh pumpkins. Hold on tight to your bonnets, friends. Things are about to get spooky in here. Here comes Isaac as a plague doctor. Here comes Jude as Elsa. Come on up, Foster. Foster is dressed as Snow White today. You can go this way. Coming up, Samir. Samir is an astronaut. You want to follow Jason? You guys can go on back. All right. Now we have Olivia. Come on up, Olivia. Show off your beautiful pumpkin. All right. You guys want to head on over this way? Follow the astronaut and Elsa. And now we have Naomi. Naomi, you want to follow out too? And we have Biddy with a beautiful pumpkin. Would you like to follow? And here comes Maggie dressed as a black cat. Anakai dressed as Princess Leia. Nevi dressed as, I wrote this down, Erica Hale. Calvin, show off your beautiful pumpkin. William, show off your beautiful pumpkin. Here we have Blythe as a hula girl. And Wyatt as a Home Depot worker. Juliet, show off your beautiful designs today. And Vivian. And Alana, you can show off your great work. Sean, hold it up high. Sean is a buckethead today. Sierra here is dressed as Wirt, W-I-R-T. Rose is another one I have to cheat on. Technoblade there. Jaden, look at these creative designs. Who is this? Khalil. Khalil is darkness. Wonderful job, Zach. Show that off. Nick, show it off. Basic berry with a basic pumpkin. Erin, Tori, and Georgia as a dinosaur. Give him a hand, folks.